Becoming a successful professional speaker is a journey. How do you find that first stage, the next stage, and then the bigger and better stages? I'm Lee Hayes, your host. My co-hosts and I are here to guide you to a more successful speaking career. You're listening to Path to the Main Stage podcast. Hey everybody, I'd like to introduce my co-host today. So we're gonna talk to John Bates today, who's the founder of Executive Speaking Success. But a little bit about John. For speakers, for executives, for astronauts who are looking to be better communicators, neuroscience, nonverbal, all things we're going to talk about. John is the go-to expert. I know multiple speakers that when I can drop the name here, Mike Michalowicz, I know that when his next book comes out, his first call to create his keynote is to go to John, right? John, I know that he works with you and
He
you get him
does,
going.
yes.
So,
Yeah.
yep. So that is why John is here today, is to talk about one aspect that emerging speakers especially should focus on, because people want to see your skill. They need to see video. They need to see you on a stage. Today we're talking about TED, TEDx, the TED stage, and what that means to you as a speaker. It is an integral part. It is something I think most speakers should be doing. And John teaches people how to get on those stages and how to be winners on those stages. So officially, welcome, John. Thank you so much for co-hosting today.
Thank you, Lee. I'm really happy to be here. And, and if I could say one quick thing, I love TED and I love TEDx, and I think you should try to go do those things. And don't wait for TED. Create a TED-worthy talk, create a TED-like talk, and go give it anywhere. And today we're going to talk very specifically about TED and TEDx and all the nuances, because there's a lot of inside baseball. Mm-hmm. And as you listen to this, yes, get on a TEDx stage, whatever that you can, but don't wait for that. That's what I would say.
I think anything in speaking, right, John? Anything in speaking, you've got to be proactive.
Yes.
If you're waiting for the world to come to you, no, you've got to go out there. You've got to do it. So, all right, let's start here at the beginning. What is TED and what is TEDx and what is the difference?
Okay, so there is a lot of confusion about that, which here's how it goes. TED started as basically a secret knock conference where you had to know somebody to get in. It was the top 1%. People were, it was like a closed gathering, and it was amazing. And it was very exclusive. And then Chris Anderson bought TED, and it was right around the same time that video was starting to get popular on the internet. And Chris Anderson said, look, this stuff is too important and too good to keep in this closed society, right? Like they would give everybody a DVD with all the talks at the end of the conference, so they could watch it personally, but it wasn't available anywhere. And if you didn't know somebody who had been there, you couldn't get it. And Chris was like, we need to give this to the world. And everybody said, you're going to ruin the conference. Chris, don't do that. Like you're going to ruin the conference. And he said, nope, I'm going to do it. And they put TED Talks online. And I think that it would be hard to argue about whether that was a success or not. I think that was a smashing success, and it made an enormous difference for the whole world. I know I've met personally people who had classrooms in Kinshasa in the slums in Africa who showed TED Talks to their kids and just inspired them, So like it went all over the world. It made a huge difference. And then people started saying, hey, I love this TED format and I love this TED idea. I live in Los Angeles, or I live in Kansas City or whatever. I want to do a TED conference in Kansas City for my community. And I want to get my community members up on stage in a TED-like environment. And so Chris Anderson did another thing that was really controversial. And everybody said it's going to destroy the brand, it's going to dilute the brand. And heck, maybe they were right a little bit, but I think the difference it made was worth it. He allowed people to get TEDx licenses. So what a TEDx event is an independently produced event run by people who have applied to TED to get the right to do, say, TEDx Los Angeles or whatever it is. They had to apply to get the okay to do that. They have to jump through an unbelievable amount of hoops to get that. The people who are running the event are forbidden from making money. And they, so they can't be some big profit making venture. It's got to be for the love of their community and for the love of great ideas, right? Mm-hmm. And then they go through all this trouble to create a stage in their community and get people up on that stage so they can highlight the wonderful things and the amazing ideas that are in their local community. So that is what TEDx events are. And now there are TEDx events. I mean, there are thousands of TEDx events going on all over the world all the time,
And like you said, I think the brand, I'm not going to call it diluted, but it has spread.
It's certainly spread the brand like crazy.
Yeah, it's like poison ivy, right? You get a little bit and it just pops up all over.
Yeah.
But it has impact everywhere. So I love TEDx. So now you just mentioned that they can't make any money.
Yeah.
So could you talk a little bit about, so a lot of speakers will say, oh, I'm only going to talk for money. People have to pay me. But I think speakers should absolutely do TEDx or TED. But I mean, TEDx is more, let's say, realistic for the average human being.
Yeah.
What value does TEDx bring to the speaker, give to the speaker? Why would you do it?
Yeah. So I'll tell you why not to do it first.
Sure.
And if you go Google John Bates, TED fail, FAIL, I will be the first result. And it will link to a story that I wrote for Inc. magazine about how I blew my first time on the stage at TED. And admittedly, I was not on the main stage. I was on a side stage, but it was at the TED conference and I freaking blew it. And I didn't even realize I blew it in the moment. But looking back, it's
all right.
bad.
You got to give us a little bit more about your fail. This just sounds like a good story.
So here is why not to do it. I did it because TED was really new, right? Like I went in 2009 and they invited me to speak in 2010 at the event in 2009. I was like, yeah, right. So I went into that thinking I'm going to go show that I'm an expert. I'm going to make sure that I carve out my place and I look good and I'm going to blow people's minds with all the cool stuff that my business is doing. And, so that is not how I say the shorthand is, don't go do TEDx to sell your book. That will be a fail, right? Why you should do TEDx is the same reason that these people dedicate an entire year to prepping to get that stage, to give it to you, right? And they can't make any money. They're doing it out of the goodness of their heart. So go do it out of the goodness of your heart. And here's the thing, don't go talk about your book, right? Don't go be that person, right? Go share, think about the audience of this TEDx event, whichever one you're applying for, or just think of a general TEDx audience. And then think about, okay, I am the person who wrote this book, or I am the person who travels all over speaking about this. And I did this and I did that. And I bought and sold companies and whatever you did, all that whole arc of your life till now, if you looked over that, the book you wrote, the business you ran, all the things you've done, if you looked over all of that and you knew that this TEDx audience would listen for like 15 minutes and really take in what you had to say and go do something about it, what is your one idea worth spreading that would make the biggest difference for them? And it may have something to do with your book or your business or whatever. Like, of course, that's your life, right? But don't make it about that. Make it about the one idea out of all that stuff. And if it's a like a paradigm shift, that's way better, right? That's super good. Like, what's the one idea? What's the paradigm shift? What's the thing you could offer this audience that would make the biggest difference for them? Because if you give them that and they love it, of course they're going to go find your book, you know? Of course
you don't want to get up there and summarize your book, right? It's not,
yeah,
it's not a book summary. It's one beautiful nugget
idea we're spreading.
Value, right?
Yeah. And you know, there is a thing that is kind of a little secret, and there's a new version and there's an old version, and I like the old version better. But there's a thing called the TED commandments. And one of the TED commandments says, "Thou shalt not trot out thy usual shtick."
Okay.
That is an important one.
Well, right? It's interesting. You said before that if somebody doesn't do a TEDx or whatever, they should have a TEDx version of a talk. Or so
I think having a TED-worthy talk, period, is absolutely crucial, even if you never get on a TED stage ever.
And again, a TED-worthy talk, meaning that you are delivering one nugget with such depth, clarity, and passion that people are touched and moved by that.
Exactly. And you have 18 minutes or less. And when I work with people, I usually try to, like, of course, it depends on what they're talking about. I usually try to steer them more closer to 12 minutes.
Okay. And just a technical question.
Yeah.
Are TED Talks always videotaped? Because I've seen so much video. I didn't know, are there any TEDx's that they go, we're not going to, or is it, they're all ideas we're spreading, therefore they record all of them?
As far as I know, that's a crucial piece of a TEDx event, is right. That they're going to do it. They're going to record it. There are actually guidelines that you can go to TED and look up TEDx video guidelines. And they've got like, okay, if you got 2 cameras here, here's what you do. If you got 3 cameras, here's what you do. Put the red carpet here, do the lighting like that. And the issue is that TEDx events are kind of like, I don't know, college football, right? Sometimes the games are as good or better than the Super Bowl. And sometimes it's like bad little league, you know? Like, I definitely have done TEDx events that I dedicated a lot of time to, where they forgot to plug the microphone feed into the video thing and there's no sound, so video's cooked, you know, or something blew up during my talk and so it glitched out the middle third of my talk and sorry, John, you know? So, I mean, look, it happens, right? Which is why if you go in expecting something for yourself, you may very well be disappointed. But if you go in really with a strong desire to be of service and just go give for the sake of giving, you'll be a lot happier about how it goes, I think.
That's so good to keep in mind, indeed. All right. So now you said there are thousands of TEDx's around the world.
Yeah.
How do speakers learn about them, and where? Because I know they're local, but can you only apply to your local one, or are there themes and maybe you fit a theme that's somewhere else but not in your town? How does that work? Where do themes matter? Where does location matter?
So yes, and it all matters. So TEDx events are local. And they want to get local voices, local ideas, local people up on stage, preferably people who have been part of their loyal TEDx audience and TEDx community, right? Which there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like these are the people that they know, you know,
Right.
they want to get them up on stage. They're also willing to bring up people that they don't know. And sometimes they'll even invite speakers who are from out of town if they've got a particularly good like speech that really fits the theme. And there's always a theme, you know, like, so that is the way that you can get out of the geographic issue. Because really the place to start is just go to your local TEDx event and say hi and volunteer. You know, like it is a community, like it genuinely is a community, and they want to put people up. And in fact, I worked with a guy for TEDx Fulbright, who is a world famous eye doctor who came up with a novel treatment for keratoconus and saved the eyesight of this Olympic bobsledder guy, and gave a great talk. And he's hilarious and he's really popular all over the world, millions of followers. And he was really hoping to speak at TED Med. And so I helped him apply. I mean, I didn't do very much, but I helped him apply. And he got a note back from them because he had applied like 6 months before TED Med. He got a note back from them that said, hey, this is really interesting stuff. And we already have all our speakers, because they picked the speakers like a year before the event, you know? So like they're planning and working way out. So, but we would love to invite you to come join us, know you better. And, you know, there's a possibility that we could have you on the stage, you know, later. And he wrote me back and he's like, John, are they just trying to sell me a ticket? You know? And I'm like, okay, look, I get how you could feel that way and it might seem like that. Absolutely not. This is a huge honor and you should absolutely go. Right? Like this is how it works. It's a community, you know? So, and then, so you apply in your local geography first, or if you were like born in Milwaukee, but now you live in LA, like go apply to Milwaukee, you know, anything that you've got a geographic connection with, go do that. And then look for themes where your thing might fit.
But so you made such a good point though, again, right there, which is TED is about, it's special, it's community. They're not looking for professional speakers.
No, they reject professional speakers.
Yeah. So you don't have to say, oh my gosh, but I haven't been on stage yet.
Yeah.
You don't have to, right? This is a great place for anybody to spread their idea. You don't have to be, you know, with an agency or something.
No. In fact, that makes it harder, right? Part of the reason is because highly paid professional speakers start to turn into divas. And I'm telling you what, like that does not fly with TEDx, right?
Okay.
Like if you think you're special, sorry, you know what I mean? Like that will not do you any favors. Got to go in humble. And then, you know, another aspect of it that I think is important, just so I don't forget, is, you know, I've worked with well over 35 different TEDx events, specific TEDx events. And I coach for the TED Fellows program. And yes, I have coached TED speakers, but I never have worked for TED, right? Mm-hmm. My work with the TED Fellows program is pro bono. So I've never worked they don't endorse me or something.
Right.
They know me, they love me, I love
community.
them. Yeah. Exactly.
It's not a job, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So, but I just recently worked with TEDx Temecula. Now, they had 8 total slots. They had at least 2 people from their community 2 or 3 that they were definitely going to put on stage that year. So 8 slots is now 5 slots, right? Or 6 slots. They had 1,500 applications.
Wow.
And they ignored 80% of those applications. Do you want to know why?
I was that you're opening a giant door here. Yes, please.
Yeah. This is like, if you're not paying attention, yeah, here we go. This is why they ignored 80% of the applications. they didn't follow the directions.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Here, yes, you have to
Hello.
go, you have to follow the rule. I'm a big rules person, John. You gotta follow the rules. You gotta cross the T's, dot the I's, do what you're asked, do it the way you're asked. Holy cow.
Now,
But yeah, I believe
here,
it. I get stuff all the time, which is incomplete or, yeah.
and here's the insight on that. They already worked all free. They are going to be putting almost all of their free time into making this event happen, and they're not getting paid.
Hmm.
And they know how hard it is to wrangle speakers when you're not paying them and they're not professional speakers, most of them, and they got busy lives, right? So if you're not willing as an applicant to follow the rules, they know for sure that you're not going to follow the rules once you've actually been asked and invited to speak and now you think you're in. Are you going to follow the rules? I don't think so, right? So if people don't follow the rules when they apply to TEDx, they just get ignored.
Huge tip. Yeah, that is so important.
That's a
And, I
big
think
tip.
as
Yeah.
a speaker, and this is going to be just as an aside quickly, so I can jump on my soapbox. When
Yeah.
you are a speaker, um, you are applying for a job. That's what, every time you try to get a gig, you are applying for a job. They pay you, you perform a service. So you've got to follow the application process. I was in HR for
Yes.
20 years. Let me tell you, when people didn't follow the application process, just like you said, if you can't follow simple rules, you're not
When
going to
you're
listen to anyone.
applying, right? You're
Yeah,
not
missing your
already
best
in.
foot, right? Best foot
Yeah.
forward, and you're already messing up. So, wow, that was but a huge tip that I wouldn't even think to give, but you were so right. Follow the damn rules. And then let's assume that you're following all the rules, you're
Yep.
following the process,
Yep.
you're in that 20% that actually gets through,
It gets looked at. Yeah.
gets looked at. How do you get so you're getting looked at. How do you get noticed?
It's a really good question. And this is a place where I have less experience because I haven't been on the team picking speakers for TEDx. I work with the speakers they picked already.
Hmm.
But from what I gather, there are a number of things. Like one is, I think that it goes a long way if you can demonstrate that you understand that they are volunteering their time to give you a global platform that could change your life. Be grateful for that. Be aware of that. Like if you come in like you're going to be doing them a huge favor, that just doesn't sit well with people, who are volunteering all their free time to do this, and um, having an idea of what you want to talk about is helpful. Being open to their input is helpful, right? Like, here's my idea. I'd love to know what you think. I'm happy to, to do something around this that's different if you've got ideas, but here's what I think I could bring to your audience, right? And if you demonstrate that you understand that, so the number one piece of coaching that TED gives any speaker comes in the form of a question. You've heard it already. What is your one idea we're spreading, right? So if you can demonstrate that you've actually thought about it and are at least in the process of boiling it down to one idea, and you would be happy to get their input and brainstorm, but here's what you've come up with so far, right? That can be really helpful. It's not going to hurt you if you have some video of you speaking somewhere, right? There's a little bit of a tension there, right? Because they're not looking for like Tony Robbins people,
Right.
and they're not really looking for like inspirational, motivational, right? That TED is about technology, entertainment, and design originally, and it's about people with new ideas, and it's about, paradigm shifts and stuff. It's not about like, here I am to deliver my keynote that I've delivered 500 times, right? Don't roll out your usual shtick. So they're not looking for to fill the stages with professional keynote speakers, right? Like you can still get on as a keynote speaker, but not because you're a keynote speaker.
But that's
And
not how
on
you
the
pitch
other,
yourself, right? I'm a great
yeah,
speaker. I've done this 1,000 times. I can get
yeah,
up there on your TED stage and snap it out. They don't want to hear that.
that's not exactly the
Right.
approach. Exactly. But it doesn't hurt if you've got some footage of you somewhere showing that you're not going to like freeze. You know what I mean? Like if you've got footage that can demonstrate what you're actually like on stage, that is also very helpful, you know. And they want to bring people in who are doing something unique, who are experts at what they do. You know, like maybe you're not an expert, but what you're doing is unique. Or maybe it's not unique, but you're one of the best. You know, like what is that niche that you can occupy that's going to be interesting to the TEDx organizer? And, you know, TED has very strong guidelines. And look, I know all this stuff is just a mess right now, but like they have very strong guidelines against things like pseudoscience. And of course, one TEDx organizer is going to hear that differently than another TEDx organizer. So whatever. They're not really into motivational speaking. You know, it's not like come give that great Zig Ziglar speech. That has its place, but it's not typically TEDx.
Right.
And so, you know, and you can go to TED and go to TEDx and look for some guidelines and look at the TEDx organizer guidelines and see what they're being told by TED. And that could help you as you couch your one idea we're spreading and put it together for them.
Yeah, interesting. I was talking with Scott Hamilton a couple weeks ago, the ice skater, the Olympic ice skater, gold medalist, and he did
Yeah.
a TEDx. And it's interesting, just a quick bite about his story because it matches with some of the
Yeah.
things you're saying, which is TEDx Nashville went to him and said, "Hey, you live in the area. We want you because,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
Scott Hamilton, for goodness sakes." So he said, "Well, okay, what do I talk about?" And they go, "We don't care. Like, just show up." And he said, "No, that's not what TEDx is about. It has to be something like I have to be worth going on stage." And so what he
I
did,
love that he did that. Yeah.
yeah, oh, absolutely. And what he did was he goes, "I looked deeply into myself. What was it about me that might be worth something to anybody else?" And he finally came upon suffering. He said, "Everyone suffers, but not everyone grows from suffering, right? Suffering
Yeah.
does not become their strength." And
Yeah.
so but here's just a tip to everyone out there. And again, I'm not a TEDx person, but this I thought was a beautiful tip. He said, "I looked up TEDx and TED and said, who has spoken about suffering? Zero. No one had talked about
Wow.
suffering." And there have
Good.
been a
That's
lot that
brilliant.
TEDx's.
Smart.
So that's what he did. So I think you don't look what the popular topic is, right? You look
Yeah.
inside yourself as to what is some nugget you bring that not everybody that's unique and fresh and
Yeah.
interesting and he crushed it. He knocked it out of the
Yeah.
park. He's the
That's
only person I've
awesome.
ever known who's been funny and inspirational about suffering.
Yeah. That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
super awesome. I mean, look, perfect. Perfect.
So yeah, there's the story that I can add, right? That I heard that, and
Yeah.
also interesting. So I once worked on a TEDx program. I had somebody reach out to me and they said, "Hey, we're putting on a TEDx, and like you work with all these speakers, would you mind going through all our applications and seeing what you think?" So I was one person of a committee.
Yeah.
And again, this is one instance of one group, but I can
Yeah.
tell you what we looked for was the ooh factor with that inflection, ooh,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
you'd be looking
Totally.
and you'd say, "Wow, this person's cool." And sometimes they were not clear on what they would talk about. They were clear on who they were usually, but
Yeah.
we just go, like this person's cool. And I
Yeah.
think if they can pull it together, we'd love to have them on stage.
Yeah.
And then other people were very defined about what they want to talk about, and that was helpful too. And then we had we had a couple people, actually one we chose because they wanted to have the mayor of the town there because like he represented the town. who was so scattered and just wanted to talk about his political agenda. And we really had to rope him in. And we're like, you may not talk about your reelection. All you may talk
Yeah.
about is, but we finally did get a good discussion out of him. He went,
That's
oh,
great.
you mean I can
Yeah.
actually say something useful about community? Yes, that's so
Yeah,
important.
that's awesome.
But I would say the ooh factor is a big part of the application.
Yeah. Yep.
Intrigue.
Yeah. Yep. And I just got confronted with this again recently. I want to say something about the downside of this whole thing. Once TEDx started, I had a friend who sent me video after video after video of these awful, awful TEDx talks. And he was making the argument that very few people actually have a TED worthy talk inside them.
True.
And then he would send me all these
Well,
awful, awful, awful things, right? And I just cringe as I watch them. But I was arguing that everybody has a TED worthy talk inside them. Some of them are just a lot closer to it than others, right?
yeah, some people just can't get it out or aren't ready to get it out. They're in there.
It's in there. I think so. And what I finally started to realize is that there is this expectation of like what a TED talk looks like, right? Like I start in the middle of the carpet and I walk over here and then I turn my head that way and and it's like, and there's that kind of voice that you talk in and you say things that are very profound and one of the things that I think gets in people's way first is don't try and do it like they do it. Do it like you do it, right? The woman who picked the TED speakers, the woman who actually ultimately chose them is a friend of mine, Kelly Stetzel. And I had her on my podcast and I asked her, what was your best coaching advice to speakers? What did you say more than anything? What can you tell us about coaching TED speakers? And she said, oh, that's easy. The number one thing that I had to keep reminding people of, and it was so hard to get them to take this advice, but when they did, it worked so much better, is be yourself. Be yourself. Be yourself. And in Hollywood,
you've opened up a new great can for me though, which is I'd love for you to bang out just a few tips. And the first one obviously is be yourself, but you've gotten the talk now. They said, Lee, we would love you to come and talk about your thing.
Yeah.
What are your other bits of advice? How does one prepare as a professional or non-professional speakers, more like it? How do you prepare for a TED Talk? And how much time should you put into it?
Okay. So look, you don't do it if you don't have time, because this is going to take time. If you want to do this right, it's going to take time. And if people come to me and they want to work with me and they've got a TED or a TEDx talk coming up, if they don't have at least 3 months, I tell them I probably can't help you. And then but let's have a conversation. And then if once I get them clear on how much time it's going to take, even though they only have like a month and a half or something, if they can put that time in, I'll take it on. But I make sure that they know this is not going to be like, oh, John will do it or cakewalk or something, So most TED speakers work on their talks for 6 months to a year, minimum 6 months, So, and it's such an opportunity. Don't do it if you don't have time, right? Don't do it. Like, do it when you do have time, or figure out how you can make time, right? So, then the other thing is get clear on that one idea we're spreading. And here's a little metaphor. The pirates, when they would bury their treasure, they would dig like 8 or 10 feet down and put the big box of treasure. Then they'd throw in like 4 feet of dirt. So it's 6 feet down, and they'd put a small treasure box, and then they'd fill in the dirt. So even if you had the map, X marks the spot, and you dug down and found the treasure, you'd think you found the treasure, right? But if you would have just dug 4 feet more, there was the huge treasure, right? So keep digging. Give yourself time enough that you can find your idea worth spreading, and then keep digging and see if you can get the thing that's actually really profound underneath that, right?
You just dropped this treasure bomb of speaking. I love that. Dig
it's
deeper.
Good, huh?
Yeah, it's fantastic. Dig deeper. And next time I see a treasure map, I know to dig twice.
Yeah.
But that's brilliant. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but this is just my feeling on speaking. I've had many speakers say to me, I don't want to practice because I don't want to look practiced. I don't want to look stiff. My thought, and this is as a non-speaker, is you should practice until you are broken so far through that it is natural.
This is what TED taught me. There is a place where you practice so much that it looks like you didn't practice, or that. So
right,
I used to, right.
Yeah.
So there's a place where you, I blew it though. There's a place where you practice so much it looks like you practiced a lot. Mm-hmm. That is not the goal, right?
No.
That is not the goal. And then there's this place I call the Valley of Awkwardness in honor of Chris Anderson of TED, where it just is really awkward. And then to get across the Valley of Awkwardness, it takes more practice. Mm-hmm. And once you practice enough that you're across the Valley of Awkwardness, over here is where you practiced so much it looks like you didn't practice at all.
And that's where you want to be.
That's the goal.
Right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the goal. So if you practice in the past and it's made you seem robotic and stuff, you practiced wrong, or you didn't practice enough. Yeah. But here's the other thing about TED, like as on my little rant about like awful TEDx talks, mm-hmm. very often those are extremely well written and they sound terrible. They're talks that were written for the eye, clever, like would have been good in a magazine, does not work for the ear, does not work on stage. Don't make that mistake. Mm-hmm. It needs to come out like you would say it.
Beautiful. All right. So now I need to, so do you have any other nugget before I move on to the next stage, which is post TED? Any other nuggets for us, things that I haven't asked, because you're the expert, that I should be asking about the preparation, the performance, anything else surrounding TED?
Okay. Make sure you have time. Do it right or don't do it. Do not be a diva. Understand how much effort they put in to give you a global platform and a chance to go viral globally, right? You're probably not going to go viral just because you spoke at TEDx. You got to do that yourself, right? If you can make that start to happen, then TED may pull you up. If it's a really great talk and it's going viral and they start to see it go, they may pull you onto the site and that will drive your virality, but they are not going to do it for you, right? Like gone are the days of, oh, I spoke at TEDx and I went viral, like you got to do that. I didn't come here to sell stuff. I do have an itty bitty book, which should be part of your preparation. It's called The Itty Bitty Guide to Being TED Worthy. You can find it on Amazon. It's like $6. So if you don't buy that,
So do check that out. And somewhere, if you go to pathtothemainstagepodcast.com, we'll put it in comments. Okay, continue.
Yep. And, but I mean, look, that book was the hardest. I've written a long book and I've written a short book. The short book was way harder. Same with TED Talks, right? Long, 45 minutes, easy.
It's easier.
15 minutes, way harder. So, and do it for the right reason. Like this is your opportunity to really give something back, and the TEDx organizers aren't making money. They're not going to pay you. And if you only do paid speaking, good for you. Get paid. But that's not TEDx,
Right. So now, okay, let's talk a little bit about promotion. Like you said, TED won't do it for you. I do know some people who've been pulled up to the TED platform, which is really cool.
But
bitching. I also know people who, most of them haven't. But obviously you want your idea to get spread and you want your talent to get spread. What are some ways to promote your TEDx?
So whether it's right or wrong, it definitely helps that you have spoken at TEDx. There's an upside to that, right?
Yep.
And by the way, let me just say this. I know the people at TEDx quite well who police TEDx.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of people out there now that are saying, look, if you give me $10,000, $20,000, whatever, I guarantee you'll get a TEDx talk. Okay. That is fundamentally, profoundly unethical. When you read the fine print, what they're saying typically to stay out of trouble is, if you don't get a TEDx talk, we'll keep helping you apply till you do, and if you never do, we'll keep helping you. You know what I mean? So, but anybody that promises you they'll get you on a TEDx stage if you pay them, that is profoundly unethical. And if they get caught, they will get reamed by TED,
Right.
So,
which is not to say you shouldn't get TEDx coaching, right? I mean, coaching to make yourself a better presenter, a better replier, that's fine. But,
absolutely.
Yeah. But
don't wait for TED.
There's no buying your way on the stage.
Yeah. No, there's no buying there. Yeah. And if you can, something's wrong.
It's unethical.
But definitely get TED coaching, right? Like most of my entire career has been doing coaching for places like NASA and Johnson & Johnson and General Electric Aerospace and Google and Intuit, because they want their executives to be TED worthy. They're not speaking at TED. They're not on TEDx.
Right.
But that's what the expectation out there is now, that you're going to be that good no matter what you're doing, right? So definitely that coaching is important. Once you have your TEDx, I think it's do your best to promote it, right? And that's why you want to do a good job, right? Because if you have your TEDx talk in your signature and it's lame, why'd you do that?
Well, if you're great, it's out there forever. If you bomb, it's out
there forever. Yes. Well, what drives me, and this is with freaking keynote speakers that make $50,000. This is with people that do TEDx events where they just didn't have time and whatever, and did the organizers a favor and spoke anyway. Mm-hmm. If you've got a restaurant on the Point in Malibu with the most unbelievably fantastic view and location ever, and then you serve mediocre food, dude, I want to slap you. Like, not really, but you know what I mean? Like, I want to mentally slap you.
I think a good slap would be good. A little backside the
sometimes,
head.
With my glove, right? Like the French thing.
Every opportunity, you've got the view, the beauty, and everything else, and then you quit. That's just...
Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but once you have your TEDx talk and it's great, you promote it everywhere, right? And you can say, like, on your LinkedIn thing, like expert, whatever, TEDx speaker and author, like that does go, like, you got to have everything else, but that's a really nice piece to have. And then,
and generally you have the video too, that you can, if somebody says, do you have video of you speaking, you can go, yes, here I am on the TEDx stage.
Boom.
Here's
there
the
it is, right?
Beautiful. Professional.
And then get that, get one of those things that downloads things from YouTube or whatever, or have the organizers send it to you, cut it up into pieces for social media, get those little nuggets, put them out there everywhere. Talk about what I learned when I spoke at TEDx, right? Not just what I taught, but what I learned from that whole experience. Like, and I think that the big point, Lee, and I think it's what you're pointing to, how I would articulate it is, it's not a one-off event. You speaking at TEDx, when you get chosen, let everybody know. And then let them know how hard you're working to prepare. Take them along the journey, right? Like post about in social media, I'm going to be speaking in 3 months. Oh my gosh, my heart's pounding. I'm spending every night thinking about, what is my one idea we're spreading? What do you think it is, right? And involve your community in the lead up, then get them there. And then the minute it goes live, like, have them go watch it and share it, right? And then share clips from it and talk about it. Like, that's one of those things where there's long tail on the front and the back end of that that you can just turn into all kinds of really fun, useful, engaging. Like, don't make it, hey, look at me. Share the lessons you're learning and share what you're getting along the way, and make it a valuable trip for people to go along with you on that.
Great advice. Yeah, you can get a lot of distance out of TED if you do that. Like you said, take people on the journey.
Yeah.
All right, John, I got to wrap up, but I've got to always end with a question. And I was going to ask you about what would you have told, former you, because you did the TEDx and you bombed. But instead of that, what
you already know.
What one piece of advice are you going to give yourself for your next TEDx stage when you crush it?
So what piece of advice am I going to give myself for my next TEDx? I'm going to give myself the piece of advice to more than I ever have in my whole life ever before, make it about them. Right?
Yep.
Like, really, John, get up there and give everything you have to make this about and for them. I want people to walk out of that TEDx, my next TEDx talk, and just go, holy smoke, how did he get inside me like that?
Wow, that is beautiful. No, but that's what TEDx is about. I think you just encapsulated what it is. It's not about me, the speaker. It's about you, the audience. And
yeah,
beautiful. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for listening to the podcast today. I hope you got a lot out of this. TED and TEDx are so important and so can be so meaningful to a speaking career. So do join me next time. Not sure what order we're doing this in, but it'll be something fantastic next week that's going to help get you along that path to the main stage. Thanks so much, Don. I appreciate it.
You're super welcome. Thank you too.
Thanks for listening to Path to the Main Stage. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And for full video episodes, check out YouTube. If you want to be a successful speaker, you need to make it happen. My co-hosts and I are here to help guide you. But if you need more help, please check out pathtothemainstage.com, where we can connect. And until next time, keep sharing your voice, keep showing up, and keep taking your path to the main stage.